Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of the European Forum on Music, claiming a front row seat, the place of music in society. I'm very happy to announce the first panel of today, Music, the New Villain on the Block, Overcoming Stigmata and Getting Back to Enjoying Music. We have wonderful, distinguished speakers and a wonderful moderator, Victoria Lidbergius, who is the Vice Chair of the European Music Council. And I hope you will enjoy the upcoming panel discussion. Victoria, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. On this last day of the European Forum on Music, I think it has been really some inspiring days, and with lots of sessions actually relevant for this one. So I believe we still have a really interesting day ahead of us still. So as Simone said, my name is Victoria. I'm the Secretary General of the Norwegian Association for Children and Youth Choirs and the Vice Chair of EMC, but I'm also moderating this session on behalf of the European Choral Association, Europacantat, so on behalf of the choral singers of Europe. And for the next minutes, we will be talking about music as the new villain on the block, overcoming stigmata and getting back to enjoying music. And I have with me a really great panel with Annette Ziegenmeier from Germany, Professor of Music Education at the University of Lübeck, and here as a representative of the European Association of Music in Schools. And then we have Willem van Moort, who is the Director of B+C, the Treasurer of EMC Board, but here as a board member for the European Music School Union. And we have David Zsoldos, also an EMC board member, journalist and founder of Papageno, and president of the Hungarian Music Council, but here as a vice president of Jeunesse Musicale International. And then we have Giambattista Toffoni, who is the general manager of the European Jazz Network, and Pamela Schobes, who is the owner of Club Gretchen and chair of Club Commission. So welcome to you all. Representing the choral field, I think perhaps with the brass bands, we have become the worst villains on the block, and I think before March 2020, I would never have thought of my own field as dangerous, especially dealing with children. Children's choirs, it felt like the most innocent and safe thing you can do, and all of a sudden, we are possibly dangerous. So we went from being a really healthy sector, singing is good for your well-being, for your physical health and everything, and it turned into something that could possibly kill people. And I remember in Norway in April when it all started, that there was in the same time research coming about how choral singing would prolong your life. So this was really catastrophic timing of this survey. Also, if you haven't tried, you should, because then you would know that choral singing online is also maybe the worst activity to do on Zoom. And in the same time, we could see people singing in balconies, and you could really see how singing was uniting people. So on the one hand, singing was something really dangerous to do, and the choral singing really got this stigma as spreading the virus. And in the same time, we could see how collective singing actually was going on. And I don't know if you remember this. In Italy, they were singing on the balconies in the first lockdown when people really felt shut in their houses. So you could still see how strong music and collective singing was. However, the choral world really got this stigma as a virus spreader. And although we're slowly starting to open up, no choir wants to be the choir to, give the virus to a whole city or something. So there's still really some fear out there, although we're very eager to come back. I asked all of you panelists, I sent you some questions and asked you to give an introductory statement of what is the situation in your sector. and what concerns you have today when society is slowly opening up again. And even though we start with our concerns and worries, we will also in this session later on look what on the bright side and what we will bring with us when we look ahead. But Annette, I let you start on the music education field.
Yes, thank you very much, Victoria, for this nice introduction and this possibility to talk in front of you today. How can I start? Maybe to start, I wanted to tell you all that I don't want to focus today too much on the negative aspects, but more on the positive vibes, because I think we all got too much negative energy in ourselves in the last year, and I really want to try to focus on the lessons learned in the last time. And also, I wanted to tell that I can really just take a very small perspective on this broad and complex issue, because I'm working at the university in a very privileged position, and I personally didn't have any problems like most musicians, like having no income and such things. But what I can talk about is the field of school music education, because I work a lot together with school music educators, because that's the future field of our students. And this is a very complex thing in Germany, because we have 16 states already, and each state has its own regulations on how to get through Corona and etc., etc. And if you think about that already in Germany happening, and then in Europe and worldwide, so it's a very, very complex situation. So in order to get out of this, I want to take one perspective which might be very, very helpful. Because as Victoria, you said, I'm also in charge of the Music Teacher Associations Network, which is a network of associations primarily for music educators working in schools. And the funny thing is that before Corona, this network didn't really go very well, because we met once a year and it never really came, we never really could do things because we met once a year. But suddenly with this Corona issue coming up, we really felt this intense energy in ourselves and said, well, now we really have to take advantage of the possibility to meet over Zoom, to get into the root of the problem, to talk to politicians, to write things down, and to be very transparent to teachers, so they know what they are allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do. And that was a very interesting experience for us, because we made like a comparative study in all different countries in Europe. And out of that came a publication we distributed to music teachers and to associations, where we could really see very well the differences that and the similarities in the pandemic. Like, for example, of course, we went all through phases of lockdown, and we all went through phases of opening up and closing down, and it was longer and shorter. But the interesting thing in this publication was that a lot of positive things came up and popped up. And for example, this is just a very little thing. I realized in Germany, I had the feeling in the beginning that teachers were very shocked about, the ensembles and the bands, they can't take place anymore. And there was not really like a systematic, organized help structure. How can we go through this? So teachers had to really immediately figure out ways how to get out of there. And there was countries where I think the infrastructure of digital media was a little bit more advanced than here in Germany. Like, for example, Finland, I think, and that's my what I learned in this network. So the feeling about how positive this could be taken further or negative was very different in the countries. And I think now we are in a situation where, me working in these associations, what we do is we try to provide Fachbriefe, that's like letters that are distributed to teachers and to schools, to head principals of schools, in order that they have a very, very easy language written language, what the rules are. And this is so important because if you can imagine, if you're a teacher at a school and you work by yourself and you hear this and this and this from politicians, you get a little confused. And then you have to tell that principal what to do. And to have this signed document by the ministry in Schleswig-Holstein, where I worked, is a very important instrument. Maybe I don't know how much more time I have, but to come to this issue of stigma, my feeling during all this time was that, and I can't speak for the musicians because this is not my main working field, but I think it really was not at all in the focus of politicians, and the people couldn't really understand, and especially musicians, why on the one hand tourism is starting back and you can take the metro and the train without big organization, but on the other hand, a single little thing like a well-organized concert and band activities can't take place. And I think what we can learn from this, because it was a terrible experience, and I think a lot of people lost their jobs and do something else right now, is to take this experience and say we really have to be more organized and to create our own lobbies, to give something back to the politicians, because if we don't raise our voice, we are never going to be in the focus of the politicians. And I could really feel it in a very small amount within this MTA network. And I just saw in the chat that I can share this in the chat, the document, or I send it to you, Victoria, so you can see that. And I think this gives a big strength and a big power to all of us in this little field. So that would be my how do you say, my message to everybody. And that's a big lesson we can learn from it. Things that didn't work well before because we didn't have this Zoom mentality, how can we focus more on activities that work very well in order to get ahead? And how can we strengthen this live aspect of music, where we need the live event, where we can't really get away without it, and to bring this into perspective, into politics. I think that's to be very brief, my main message in the beginning.
Thank you. I think ending with that question is a really, really good one. We will stay in the education field. Willem, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Victoria. And thank you for having me here in this forum panel of music. First of all, I want to say something about myself and about the organization. I'm the director of BPROC. BPROC is an organization in the Netherlands, in the origin of Leiden, a very old city in the Netherlands. And it's a combination organization with libraries and art education and festivals, and also pop music. In the education part, we have music education, but also dance, theater, fine art, and everything. But I will concentrate, of course, for the music today. When the lockdown starts, we have a big problem. So as everyone in Europe has a big problem. But in a few days, a lot of the problems were solved, because we have many years before the lockdown, we had discussions in the learning fields and in the teaching fields that it is not possible to give lessons, music lessons, digital. It was not possible. And we had a lot of discussion about that, and the sound is not good, and you can see your children and you can see the students, and it's not possible. But there was a lockdown in in my organization, and also in the all the music schools of the Music School Union. In 1 week, we know how to work, and in 1 week we give a lot of lessons digital, and that was some big compliment for all the teachers and for all the organizations, and therefore I think we learn a lot of this COVID, and it was so good for us and so good for the music sector. So I think that's a good part of the COVID, if you can say that. And now we step by step we going back to the normal, what's normal, but step by step we giving the lessons now live and one-to-one or to a group or with small ensembles. But the good thing, I think, that we learn from the COVID is that there's a possibility to make a combination of giving lesson live and giving lesson digital. And I think that's a good thing, because many years ago, or a year ago or 2 years ago, a student came to the music school and he came to his professor and once a week, and there was a lesson, and the professor gave him or her some homework, and he go back and make his homework, and the week after he came back to the lesson and he said, I did this, that, and then they talk about it and they play the music, and okay, and then he go back home. But it is possible that when you went back home on your bicycle, because we are Dutch, on our bicycle, and we went home, and then you have a question, and then you think, oh my God, let's think about it, because next week I can make that question to the professor. But in this time, in the digital time, you have the question on your bicycle, and you are home, and you take your tablet or your PC or whatever, and you ask the question to the teacher, and then you can go farther and farther and farther, and then the combination with the digital lessons and the live lessons, I think we learned a lot of that, and I think that's the future for music schools and also for teaching music. But also, there are some problems, of course, and I will talk about some problems we had in the last time, and maybe we have it now also. You have problems with children who have not so much money. We saw that some children who don't have a laptop at home, and then it's difficult to have the music lessons. So we are in Leiden, we give some laptops to children who don't have a laptop at home. But the children said, my God, thank you for the laptop, but we don't have Wi-Fi at home. So that's our big problems. We have also problems with people with special needs. The same ideas. We have also problems with people who don't speak the language very well, and also with people who have difficulty with reading and writing. That's a big group of people, and we don't. It's very. For us, it's very important. For us as musicians and teachers, it's very important that we don't lose them, that we don't lose that people, and that they are. Now the world is a little bit more open, but let's go to that people. Let's go to the elderly homes. Let's go to the hospitals. Let's play on music on streets, in the parks. Let's hear that how very important music is for people, for us, but so good for people, to combine people and to work together on a new world with what we have learned from COVID. I think for now that's my opening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Willem. And thank you for pointing out the differences that already existed. Perhaps they got more visible during the pandemic. We will continue with David. Perhaps you also saw some real differences representing an international network. Perhaps you saw some differences in also how it affected people in different countries. So please.
Sure. Thank you. And greetings to everyone. Actually, I liked really a lot what Willem just said. And that's actually, he just said a huge part I wanted to say, which is actually a great thing. I don't want to introduce myself because we really know each other quite well. But, you know, I'm also a pianist and musicologist and maybe a communication guy. But I only have to mention that I'm also a big fan of, airplanes and airlines and the whole, everything that flies. And the airline industry is one of the most dangerous and at the same time the safest industry in the world. And it works like if something unexpected happens, maybe an air crash, there's a very strict investigation in every single little detail. That's why they are so safe. And in contrary, music and in general the arts, performing arts, we had a false sense of the safety, and this absolutely unexpected thing happened, like the COVID last year. We've been just shocked. We stopped. We just couldn't move. You cannot see any other industry when you just cannot have live performances and all the income stream just stopped. Every recording from all over the world was just available for free in 1 second, from the Metropolitan Opera to the Zurich Opera to even Montreux Jazz Festival was free. So so we had a strange situation, actually, and we should really learn a lot that how we should raise awareness in us, because this is our responsibility. That what can we learn from all the aspects of this kind of COVID, how we react, how the audience reacts to the stopping. And when it comes to, the stigmatization, is very important that there is a huge differences between countries. And this goes back, I think, that how society look to the musicians, to the arts in general. What's the role in the society? Do people see music and arts as a luxury, or do you see music and arts as a necessity for living? If we are really important to people, then they will, they won't stigmatizing us. So and we should work on this. So it's just a huge subject. It's really more than 5 minutes or even more. That how different people in social classes and in countries can see that someone is not working but still gets some money, when someone is not working and doesn't get any money, like in Hungary. We did not have this kind of support that in the Western countries had. And we can go even further. If you go to the US, which is one of the strongest market in the classical music and of course in the music industry in general, but they lack this kind of strong government support. Regarding the orchestras and choirs and the whole, industry level, the problems are way worse than here. So I think Europe came out really lucky. We didn't came out from anything yet, but we are still maybe the luckiest point of the world regarding how the music industry stands now. So we should meet up, and we should not be proud of this, but we should be grateful for that, and we should use it as an opportunity. But because I think in the arts and entertainment world, I'm not speaking about the movie industry, but especially music. I think the whole world is now looking to Europe, what's happening next, and what opportunities are here. I know a lot of musicians are leaving US, leaving Canada, to Europe, and even ballet dancers and everything. And it's very important that even people from the Far East, young people from the Far East, they plan to go to the US or other countries. They changing plans and try to go to Europe, because they realize that in Europe we have the legacy and the strengths of the legacy, and we should keep it. We should take care of it, and we should maintain the support of the society what we have. And other countries, they do not have. Just ask Brazil, or there are plenty of examples. So, and actually, I have to be I just don't want to be so some smooth mood. So I have a video for you. It's about the Ethno project of the JMI, which we are very proud of. Actually, I can be very proud of, because I'm not strictly part of the project. I work in the classical field. Ethno is, of course, an ethno music. We run this initiative for more than 30 years, and it's now currently running in 13 countries all over the world. I mean, from the US to the Solomon Islands. And it's great because it's local music. Ethno music, that's original music. And a lot of people are coming together, and they are getting their music exchanged, and it's just really awesome. I try to start this video. I could do it before the session without any problem, so I think it won't be problem here. So please watch it. Oops. Right. Can you see it?
What is ethno? Is it music? Sharing? Fun? Friendships? Or is it more? Could it change your life? Can it make you grow? Does it have the power to make lasting change happen? Every year, since the past 30 years, JM International's Ethno program is working in over 20 countries worldwide to bring together musicians in the spirit of generosity, respect, and openness. With over 8,000 musicians reached in over 80 countries, Ethno is a movement, a lifestyle, and a way of being. Ethno. Music changes everything.
Okay, I could turn on myself. Actually, some people had problems with the video. Was it okay? Could you hear it? Okay, majority is yes. I will share the link to the chat so everyone can watch it. So yeah, that's all. We could talk about really a lot, but I don't want to take your time. The digital aspects are very, very important, I think, for the future, and I think we won't get back to the normal. We just cannot back to the normal. But if we are good enough and we put into the work, we can make an even better ecosystem for the music industry than we have been here before. So that's all. Thank you so much for attention.
Thank you, David. And thank you for showing us what what we really miss and what we have missed during this pandemic. If you didn't get to hear the video, you should really watch it later. And this is a fantastic project. And let's hope that we can get back to international activity soon again. Giambattista, perhaps you also experienced this a lot, working with an international or European network.
Yes, I mean, we are on the, let's say, the front line, because I represent this Europe Jazz Network is a network of 160 organizations, mainly producing concerts. I mean, our members normally produce 30,000 concerts per year. So we represent one part of the, of the whole ecosystem of the music industry, let's say, especially in the creative sector and music. So the situation of the pandemic, of course, when you produce, I mean, when our member produced 30,000 concerts per year and then sold something like 20 million tickets per year, something like this according to the last survey that we asked the member years ago, and we what happened left everyone astonished, stunned, because on February 2020, everything stopped. And I would like to connect to what Annette said before. I mean, there is a stigma for the cultural sector. Yes, it was a stigma because we don't know how it's possible to do the transportation with the metro packed and the train and the people on the street, and then or the church that was open for the what we know, and then it was not possible at all in a safety situation like in a safety environment like the theater. I mean, I don't speaking about a standing, concert outdoor where people, can stand, and then I'm speaking about the venues, the clubs, the theaters that we have, hundreds of thousands in Europe. So we were the first sector that closed the activity as cultural sector. We have been the last that reopened. That is, the consideration of the politician of the cultural sector is really low, despite the fact that, if the Greeks started in the 5th century before Christ to create the first theater, and after 2,500 years, we are still here to have a relationship with the artist, to listen to the story, to listen to the music, to see the people dancing, to watch the TV or cinema of the last century, and to create this relationship between the artist and the expression of the human beings with the audience. There is a reason that after 2,500 years, there is still this need. And it has been a big problem for everybody, of course, not only for the artists, not only for the organization, because the ecosystem is composed of, hundreds of different types of persons that working on the background and on the backstage of a venue, of a production, such as the technicians, sound engineer, light designer. I mean, it's the whole sector. We saw in the last years a lot of higher, for example, sound hire service that closed their activity. I mean, they invested hundreds of thousands of money on PA and lights system, etc. So they sold everything. They stopped. They go bank. They declare bankruptcy. I mean, it's the whole ecosystem that create also a big economy at the European level. Because we are connecting people, and this is the worst part of it. and because I'm living in Italy, my network is based in France, and we represent, I told you 160 plus members coming from 35 countries. But living in Italy, and Italy was the first country affected by the coronavirus in last year. I can say that there was a lack of solidarity also on at the European level. We saw at the beginning that every country, in Italy also, we started to be isolated altogether, despite the fact that all the cultural sector started to be more united. I did a lot of meetings during the pandemic with all the other cultural networks from different performing arts, for example. that is, on the opposite, the politician, all the countries in Europe, I mean, they react to this big pandemic crisis in a different, taking different measures in every country. So, I mean, speaking about the negative part of this, that is important, because maybe later we can speak about the positive part, and there are a lot, to be honest, because I mean, we maintain it, when they open a little bit during the summer, this small window to organize, live concert, of course, we are willing to go back live. I mean, there is no media that could help the relationship between the artist and the audience. I mean, we need to have this contact, absolutely. That's why the Greeks created the theater 2,500 years ago. There is no digital era after that. There could be a parallel era, of course, but I mean, our job is to go straight to the live and to meet the people and to let the people listen the story that musicians and artists, the dancer would like to tell us. I mean, and yes, there are a lot of positive aspects on this. I mean, we hope. I mean, there was a big discussion also inside other cultural network. How can we change the paradigm? I mean, let's take the opportunity of this big crisis to change the paradigm of organizing and produce new music. In our case, more sustainable, to work better with the local community, to avoid these, Oslo, Rome, and Helsinki, Barcelona travels, and then create a sustainable route of the artists. Let's invite the artists not only for one gig in the theater, but let's invite them for 2 or 3 days or maybe more to have a relationship with the local community. I mean, these are opportunities that was in the past. I mean, when I started my job as a producer, for example, 30 years ago, where the flights were really expensive, I mean, there was this approach. And that this approach helped a lot of the local producer promoters to create these links with the local community. That is important. It's not a one shot. I arrive to the theater, I play my music, and I come back. It's not like this. I mean, we have to take, I mean, this could be one of the 100 of examples that we can discuss all together with the whole music industry, the sector. But I think that we have to take the opportunity to create something new with this pandemic. Otherwise, I mean, yes, we lost an opportunity. After a big, every big crisis created big positive opportunity for everybody. I mean, we did also a webinar on this. What we organized, for example, as EGN. I mean, as a network, I have to say that we've been overwhelmed of activity. I mean, we work more than before the pandemic. We moved, of course, all our activities online, and then we already had a fantastic relationship with our members, of course. But I mean, we really reinforce this kind of relationship. We open up to also other networks. We collaborate with other networks. I mean, with EMC, Live DMA. We had a lot of meetings regarding this, and then. Probably this crisis will lead to a radical change in the paradigm of the organization. I hope, especially for the live shows. We must be ready to do something like this and indicate some possible, roadmap or changes or new routes, let's say. Yes, I think that it's enough for now.
Thank you very much. You brought up a lot of important topics. For further discussion, I will let Pamela go for an introductory round first before we continue. Pamela, with clubs, I really think of, standing close, sweating, drinking beer. How has the stigma been for you?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, by the way. Actually, I think that we were the first who got stigmatized. I mean, we are used to get stigmatized for a lot of things, because clubs is something what you always have in mind with excess and things like that. And this is also why we do that and why it's made for. So we usually create safe spaces also for marginalized groups, for different types of human being who can come together and who can be like they are or who they want to be, for people who think that they have to try to be someone else outside when other people are looking at them. So I think we are actually really important spaces. Not everybody realized that, but I think Batista gave a great overview about the whole situation of how many people, how many communities, how many working groups belong together in the clubs. So I try to focus on the venues, what has happened and how it was for us. We are more or less all closed since more than 14 months now. Some of us were able to do something in the summer, but not all the clubs do have outdoor areas. And like Batista said, we want to do something. So everybody who had the opportunity in summer to do whatever outside, to bring people together, to bring people on stages, they did without a business idea behind that. It was always for the humans, so to say. And but it was really hard because we were, especially in Berlin, we had the first so-called super spreader events. I think the word was created for us with the clubs. So the first things that really happened were in some of our clubs, and we were the first who had to close. And honestly, we were actually asking the politicians for officially close us because we realized pretty soon that it's really dangerous inside the clubs because people are so close together and they need to be very close together. And we realized that it's dangerous for people. So we actually asked for closing us down because we had already people from the community who said, you cannot go on with that. It's too dangerous. You need to close. But then, of course, we have the contracts with booking agencies and everything. So we could not only say, yes, we think it's maybe a little bit dangerous and kick everything down. So that would have been a financial problem as well. So we were working together with our politicians, especially here in Berlin, from the beginning onwards, and we have a pretty good relationship to our politicians because here in Berlin, the politicians realized already earlier how important we are for the city, money-wise, on the first-hand side, but also for the culture, for the musicians, and for the human beings. So that was actually, we were in kind of like a lucky position, so that we were able to also ask for funding pretty soon. And although we are pretty much disappointed that mainly in the political speaking, culture is mentioned far at the end, if it's mentioned. Sometimes they even do not talk about that. Although even business-wise, this sector is within the top 5 in Germany. So with all the different parts together. But they are always talking about cars, airplanes, and things like that. And we even have like situations that politicians, when we talk about music and when we try to be noticed, politicians say, well, the young people, they should just stay strong, it works, and you can dance together at home with your partner. So they are, from my opinion, there are too many people who do not understand what live music, club music, what that means. It's not only dancing together with a partner. So it's all about communication. It's getting in contact with people. It's closing the eyes and feeling the atmosphere of the whole surrounding. Even the artists, they need the feedback from the crowd to realize if what they have produced is really working. It really fits with the audience. So it's, of course, we all tried doing something digital, but as others already said, you cannot transport the emotions, and you need the emotions to get the whole thing. So in last summer, we were able to open with distance and all these things, and I think we all showed that this is possible. nothing happened anymore. We were really, we were by ourselves really afraid of having another super spreader event. We didn't want to be stigmatized again. So it was in our own interest that everything works well, and everything worked well. It worked, and the people were happy. We were happy. The artists were happy. Our team, I mean, we are working together with a lot of people, and especially in the nightlife, you sometimes have people who are not really made for a 9-to-5 job. So we have also like special people who work in the nightlife, and we are their family. So all this was cut and gone. So it was super important also for those people coming together, doing something in summer. And it was a huge disappointment that everything was locked down again, although always everywhere in the fabrics and the trains were full of people, the fabrics, they were all working, and we were the one who are not allowed to do anything. That is really, really a big disappointment, and it's not understandable for us. So we are happy now that especially we in Berlin we could start, I think 10 days ago already, with small concerts outdoor. We are pretty lucky that and pretty happy that we can also do something inside now, indoor, with distance and all these things. And we are on the same level like theaters or opera houses. Last year it was completely different. We were not allowed to do anything inside, even if we had concerts. And so there could have been some theater things where people sit and look at the stage, but it was not allowed doing that in a club, having a band and people sitting. That is also not understandable. This year it's a little bit different. The only thing what we still don't understand, dancing is still not allowed. And this is, I mean, having a seated concert is anyway better than having no concert. But club music and live music, club venues, live venues, they also live because people are moving and they can express themselves. So we really need that back to make people happy and to make people healthy, I think. We had some of the illegal parties, of course, because people think they have to do something if we cannot give it to them. We try to say the politicians that it's probably better people come to us where we have a hygienic concept, where we keep where we look at the people, take care of them, have the distance and mask inside, and instead of that people go into parks and don't think about all that. But no way, they didn't understand us. So the problem was that as soon as the illegal parties started in the parks and everywhere, people outside, they mixed it up with clubs. So there were illegal parties outside. We were just suffering from everything. We wanted to do something. We were not allowed to do anything. And the whole media was full of the clubs, the music scene. So because we are talking about stigmatization, this is really hard, and it's not fair, of course, and it's not understandable. And this is why we are really afraid of being stigmatized again if something happens. So we, on the one hand side, we are happy that we are allowed to do something indoor now with distance and all these things. But on the other hand, we are afraid of that then maybe something happens. It could also happen in an opera house, because it's not a different from the organization. People sit, they listen to music, they look, but if it happens, it happens. But I'm so super sure that if it happens in an opera house, it was maybe even not in the newspaper. Or if it's in the newspaper, it's just a little thing. There were people got sick in an opera house during a concert, and there was one people with the coronavirus and infected others. If this happens in a live venue, you can be sure that every newspaper will bring it. It will be like this big article with this big letters: music scene, club scene, young people, sex, drugs, rock and roll. What a nightmare! And this is, I think that's not fair. And I think we all have together work against that. I mean, I think we all try it with our organizations. We try to convince people. We try to explain what it is and how we are working and why we are working and why it is so important. And it's not only that artists can present themselves or that people get in contact. I mean, we bring together so many different cultures, and this is so important for democracy and for having a colorful world. And I really hope that we can go forward, that we somehow get the pandemic situation in a better way, that the vaccination will go forward and that we can start. But I think it's going to be difficult when we start anyway.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a big frustration for everyone, and I can speak on behalf of my own field, the children and youth choirs. Although that has been partly allowed because they are so young, the rules have been so complicated about who can sing together, because you can only sing with the 5 people you're meeting in school. And so in the end, we just had to recommend everyone to stop because it was too complicated with the rules that existed. So even though it was partly allowed, it was just not possible. And I want to go back to something you more or less all mentioned, this awareness of how to show the strength of live music. And but a little bit about what Willem and David said about who gets to take part of music, because what about the children who didn't get to start their activity? And what about, for example, for David, for the JMI projects like Ethno, they have an age limit, you know? What do you do with the people who were 26 and all of a sudden they're too old to take part of this project? And have we lost a generation of children? Perhaps Willem and Annette can say something about this, and David, you can say something about youth in these projects. David, I saw you wanted to start. So.
Okay. Just I do not think we lose a generation now. So it's just, of course, it's terrible. It's been maybe 15 months now, but of course, children goes. I mean, music is not the kind of activity you can do it online or you can learn it online. And teaching online music is just a nightmare. And of course, it's a huge loss, maybe a loss of a year, which is terrible. But I think the system will overcome this. So it's of course it's bad, but it's not a disaster. The long-term impact is more interesting. I'm afraid that from the JMI perspective, we are really very international. We have projects in Africa. I mean, Music Crossroads Africa. We are traveling. The whole concept of the JMI is just getting together people from all over the world. And now we are fine. Maybe just travel in Europe. It's great to have it again. The possibility. I'm speaking from Zurich, so also I'm not at home, but traveling to China or the US or whatnot, and maybe just then do it in groups. I mean, music groups is just all but impossible, and there are a good chance that the travel costs will be much higher after the pandemic, and there will be other restrictions and a lot of uncertainties. This is the biggest problem. We've planned a new meeting in South Africa, and we had to postpone it again, and now we just gave it up to make it in the coming months. And regarding the education, I think we should see the good part. Of course, it's all but impossible to make the same impact to a child through online. But we developed a lot of tools, and we learned a lot how to do it. It's in an acceptable form, and there are some situation it comes very handy. So I think we should use these online tools, and we should be grateful that we have some possibilities, and we should develop them like crazy, because it's really the future. So we have a generation. We are talking about the generation who is they are screen first, and they're communicating with the screen. This is maybe the most important thing in their life. So yeah. I think it's not a disaster. We will overcome it, but we should focus on the new things we've learned in the last couple of months. That's it.
Thank you. Annette or Willem, do you have any comments on this?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
Annette first, and then Willem.
Okay, sorry. I would totally actually agree with what you just said, David. And I also think it's not a catastrophe. I think what we really learned from it is to get even a more closer look at those children who were already actually lost before. I mean, we cannot forget that this was just right now. It happened already before. It just became more and more visible right now. And I just wanted to give maybe one example, because I had students who were supposed to go in schools, and of course the orchestras, the bands didn't take place. And what we did, and it actually worked out pretty well, of course only for a certain amount of time, but not forever, is that we really thought about, okay, how can we make, how do you say, what would work right now with an orchestra who can't meet. And so we said, well, let's look at the things that the students can do at home, and what maybe never has been brought up. So, and my student, he developed like YouTube tutorials about practicing. Like he showed them how he practices when he doesn't want to practice, what is practicing and stuff. And so he kept like, it was just a little thing he connected with them over this communication tool, but over the time we said this was good for the students, because they have never been thinking about practicing. They always came to the rehearsals without having practiced, and this was never an issue. So that was just one thing, I think, to start thinking creatively about how to make it through a period which seems to be catastrophic, and to be responsible in finding new ways where we still maybe every day have to ask ourselves how far we can go and where we have to step back. And I think that's the thing I take for me as a homework for the music teacher education, really to strengthen music teachers in more, in thinking more creatively about how to get out of these moments, and how to think in long paths, to also make it through pandemic situation or something else, and to always have a broader view on the students, and not forget those ones who were lost, and maybe take them first into the consideration, and start from there and think, okay, what do I have to do as a music teacher in order to get them who are the most uneasy to get?
Yes, I agree with Annette and David. Of course, they said a lot of things I want to say also, but it was, for me, it was more a warning. So don't forget them, and that's why I said it. But I want to make, because they said a lot of things I want to say, I want to make a little bridge to our college who talk about the clubs and the jazz and the touring. I think it's very good that you said that it's good to make to speak with the local community. And when you travel to Europe, don't go for one night to a city or to a village, but go for some days, and then talk about your music with the amateurs, with the local musicians, with the students in that city. I think that's so important. I remember by myself, many years ago, I was a student at the conservatoire in Amsterdam, and I studied percussion, and there was, some of you maybe know him, because now he's very old. There was a concept of Billy Cobham, and Billy Cobham was a very, very famous jazz drummer in that time, and he was playing in the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, and I had a workshop with him, and I remember it now, so many years ago. So I think it's so important that that good musicians came to a city, gave a concert, and gave some lessons to the students.
Can I say something, Victor? Yes, I mean, thank you, Willem, thank you, everybody. I mean, very, very interesting. And yes, we already started the discussion with all the booking agents, with the artists themselves. We organize a lot of webinars in this direction. And I think that, I mean, if we are smart, this is, a fantastic way to go back to the origin, or to the previous year, let's say, when people can meet the local, musicians, the local community, have, the possibility also for the artists to discover something new. Instead of traveling to the airport, go to play, sound check, play, and go back to the hotel room. That is really ridiculous. This is because, I mean, there was this law, flight, low cost, flight company that allowed everybody to fly for, that is okay, because it really helps the transnational mobility of the artist. Of course, it's important, but I mean, together with this, for example, we are discussing a green rider. I mean, it's ridiculous that an artist asks in Italy, for example, for the Perrier water, let's say, for example, when we can provide, local foods, local water, fantastic local wines, like in Austria or in Germany or other place in the world. I mean, it's also important to go into this direction. I mean, the green rider we are presenting now to our members, we will present in the next weeks. Also, we discussed with some artists. I mean, stop to ask for 1,000 lights or big PA where you don't need it. I mean, let's take also this into consideration the sustainability of the sound pressure level of our venues or open air concerts. I mean, everything is connected. I mean, if you would like to change the world, because I mean, the cultural sector is on the front line of this, because we are speaking to the heart of the people and directly to the audience. I mean, we have to take our responsibility as producer, artists, community, teachers, and everything. And yes, I think that we have a great opportunity in front of us. And then it's with the union, with the networking that we can put on the table together, I think we can change something. I'm positive in this direction.
Thank you, and thank you all for being so positive. I think this is resonating a lot with what was said yesterday during the SDG talks, and like Marina Ponti said, we have now a window of opportunity to, both politically, to really show the importance of live music, what you all said. So if I ask you, what do you think is the most important change? You have already mentioned some of them, the digital shift and sustainability, awareness, and that we have become much more strong in networking. So what do you think are the most important changes, and what will stay
after the pandemic?
After the pandemic, for a year or for 10 years?
But I think that, I mean, the streaming in some way helped a little bit. I mean, there is a big problem now. I mean, no, the monetization of the streaming is still in the same level of 10 years ago. There is no monetization for this, so there is no income for the artist, no income for the production. But I'm quite sure 100% that we are all willing to go live, no doubt about this. We are, I mean, our mission is to go live, and the vision is to let the people meet, I mean, in the theater, in the club, standing or sitting, whatever. But we need to recreate immediately this relationship between the artist and his audience, But I think that there will be, I'm sure 100%, an hybrid situation where some extra content will be in the digital format. Not the concert, but, some backstage, the interview to the musicians, the relationship between, 10 minutes of the concert in Berlin, and then I'm in Spain, maybe I can pay few bucks, a few euros, and then I can watch the concert in Berlin. This could happen because we have an international audience, let's say. But we must be very clear that during the pandemic, unfortunately, the monetization of the streaming is still a big problem for the artist and then for the producer of this kind of content. What I saw is that a lot of members of my network and a lot of other producers outside of my network invested in the gear of the video audio equipment to create this streaming. And that if we have time later, I can tell you also some successful story regarding this. Not all, but a small part, but it's successful story. So they already invested in this gear. I mean, cameras, video switcher, etc. So I mean, they are willing to create, and they are ready to create some extra content in a high quality that could be, spread and streamed elsewhere. So I think that in the future we have to think about the monetization of this kind of streaming. We would like to push everybody to go online because live is our mission, no doubt about this. And then there could be a parallel life in the hybrid world, let's say from analog to digital. I mean, and I think that this could be a sector that we can exploit in some way, all together.
Thank you. Yes, David.
I just want to emphasize the same thing. And maybe just more concrete. If we only focus to go back live, to the reopening, to get back to normal, we just miss the point. We will just fail, because this pandemic was an opportunity to reveal us that if we do not conquer the digital world, we will lose. We will lose audience, we will lose people, we will lose everything, we will lose our impact. So we should create. We are maybe 30 years behind other parts of the show business, I would say. That's why music and theater suffered worst, because if just look at the sport events. Of course, there was no sports events, but the whole ecosystem just kept working, because all the income, all the revenue, every major sport industry is now relying on the screen, on all the sales, all the advertisements, all the monetization. Now, because they are after this product development now. I still remember when I was a little child, when the football match on the TV was really like just a pity. Now you have all the info screens and every numbers and every details, and it's all but interactive. And you have underwater cameras in the Olympics when it comes to swimming. You have the cockpit view in the Formula One. So they created the experience which just works, and we did not create. And of course, we will not create the same experience as a live performance. I can tell you, because I was a pianist and I still adore live. Live is a whole different story. It's like, cooking or watching a cooking show. But still, watching a cooking show is still worth, and it really helps to spread the word and spread the feeling. You know what? Maybe the most popular classical music product ever is the Three Tenors show. It was, 30 years ago, after football championships, three great singers. It was all about television, all about the screen, and everybody knows it. It helped a lot to gain popularity for classical. So I think we should really see this as an opportunity, and it also, when it comes to teaching, a lot of teachers came out wonderful products and wonderful content produced. They had the time, they had the tools, and they had the motives. And they just did tremendous things, much better things. Complete amateurs, teachers. I mean, no IT guys. They produced wonderful materials, how to teach and how to make, just how to engage people with music. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Pamela, you had something to say, and then Annette.
Yeah. I think beside the new possibilities, the digital possibilities as an add-on, because I think it really can only be an add-on. There's nothing what you can compare with live. So, but I also see the possibility. What we also, of course, probably all realized that the only things we could do within the pandemic situation, even in a digital format, is doing something with local artists, because there was no possibilities of traveling. And I really hope that our communities, the crowd, the people who go out, realized and learned that also locals who are not the top 10 superstars can also and are very good musicians and can bring over the same feeling like a superstar. Because I don't think that it's only a Berlin problem, but in Berlin it is a problem because we have so many clubs and so many people who are producing shows. The level of superstars is really high in every genres actually we have. And it's although we are, especially in our club, we are always trying to present local bands. You can see that, of course, there are less people coming to the local bands, and you are forced, sometimes you are, business-wise, you are forced to do the superstars, the international superstars, to make money to pay your rent. And as higher your rent is, the more superstars you have to book to make the money to pay the rent. So this is something which is going up, which is a really, really difficult thing. And now, like for 14 months, we only had the possibility to present the locals because, of course, you could do a streaming with an artist in the US, but we all wanted to do the streaming out of our clubs, out of our venues. So we all work with locals. And of course, it was super good. And I hope that this is an impact that our crowd had learned their lessons, that it's not necessary only run 2 shows with superstars, but also come to local. So like support your local artists, support your local community. And then we also, I think it's quite good. A lot of people are working on green riders. I'm pretty curious how it works with booking agencies, especially with management. I hope that it will work. Because it's also better for the environment if we do not fly in so many people. So it's good for so many things working with locals and support the scene.
Thank you, Annette.
Yes, I just saw in the chat, Sonja Greiner, she wrote something, and that's exactly what I just wanted to say. When I think about developing like further education programs or like formats for education, I think there is a big chance also in distinguishing between what needs to be live, what can't be replaced at all, but what is also a possibility to use or to realize in a digital format, in also to reach a broader audience, or also to bring the world to us, or to go out into the world. Because I think what I experienced is actually, and you would maybe not think about that a lot of people want that. I mean, a lot of people would like to participate in a conference that takes place somewhere, or in an education program that takes place in a different country. So I think this is a big challenge, not to be like, oh, okay, it's easier mentality kind of, or let's do everything digital, but to really make sure, okay, this is something we really want to keep in a live format because it's so important, but this is something that we could maybe turn into a nice digital format. That brings me further to another question that I keep asking myself, what does the use of digital media does with each one of us? I don't know how you felt about it, but what I experienced throughout the last year is a total overflow and overkill of meetings happening one after the other, and you don't have any time between because you're so aware of, oh, let's do this and let's do that. Oh yeah, okay, I can have the next meeting exactly 1 minute later. So, and I think this is a big issue also for children and young people who are growing into this mentality suddenly right now. To have an ethics and mentality how to use the digital media in not in a way to take advantage and to do even more crazy things, but to be always like, okay, in a normal setting, like without digital media, we would take a break, we would sit down, we would have a coffee, we would sit down and go around the lake or something. And I think this is pretty important.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up. And I saw comments both on that that the artists, you know, what you said about the overflow, that only a few artists, only the top stars become visible, and others said, but like the programming gets more diverse because the scene is open to everyone. Batista, do you had some success stories. But do you see a difference in programming? Maybe Pamela also.
I saw that. Do you hear me? Yes. Yes. The more attention on the local musicians, of course. I mean, it's it's a key, and it could be connected also to invite the so-called big star or the, let's say, established artists around the world that can meet the local musicians. I mean, they work with the conservatoire, for example, the local music scene, the local schools. It's really important. The Billy Cobham mentioned by Willem was, a fantastic way in the past to work, on a daily basis. It was in the past. It was something like this. I mean, we invited artists to stay 1 week in a city, and then they first they met the local artists, the conservatoire, high school, higher education system, of course, because when you speak about these established artists, you have to invite the people that can understand their language, and then at the end they started to they are invited in the venue to play their show. I mean, this was the normal approach years ago, and then I think that we have to come back to this kind of things. Regarding the digitalization, I mean, I think that everybody now is ready to exploit it. I mean, we must exploit it. We have to take the opportunity, as David said, to exploit this kind of, let's say, not new tools, because we were using, Zoom since 10 years now, and then there is the Zoom fatigue. I totally agree with Annette. It's better to, when we had this meeting, this activity, in presence, the past, I mean, till 2 years ago, it was nice to have a coffee all together and do a short walk on the lake before the next meeting. But now it's one meeting, another close to another to the other, to the next meeting. I don't want to spoil what we are thinking with EGN, but I think that it wasn't not possible until last February, but now it's possible with the new technology to do something like an Eurovision of a different stream coming to one location and then broadcast these kind of things. And then we are creating this kind of machine. We already created, to be honest. It's here. I can show you something just to exploit it. I mean, we can receive, I mean, this is very good for, cultural network organizations that have a lot of organization around the world to receive different stream and then stream a program that we have to create, of course, in the future. But it's possible now with a very low investment to create something that is possible it's possible to create something like a new content online. And then years ago was possible with an investment of at least 100,000 euros in broadcasting, camera, etc. Now it's possible with an investment of 4,000 or 5,000 euros to create something that could go into the internet in high quality. So, I mean, we have to exploit absolutely this kind of things. Can I say something regarding a successful story inside EGN? I mean, of course, all the members of EGN stopped to organize concerts. I mean, they try to do a lot of streaming, but there are some successful story of 4 or 5 clubs in Europe. The ones that had a strong connection with the local community maintained the streaming, and then they received the donation from the community that helps all the artists, local artists, and the Christian to continue to work. I'm speaking about Munich, the Unterfahrt, the Bimhaus in Amsterdam, Moods in Zurich, Porgy and Bess in Vienna. I mean, they continued all the streaming. This was possible because this kind of venue really had, a fantastic link with the local community, a relationship. So people connect to the streaming service of the club, and they give for free. And then they continue to give donation to the club. So 5 euros, 50 euros, somebody with 100 euros just to maintain, this kind of club. This didn't happen for the festival, for example, because the festival are really concentrated in 1 week or 3 days, etc. They have this strong connection with the community, but it's not like a club or a venue of this form that have for example 150 or 200 seats, and then they couldn't do something different. Yes. I think you are muted, Victoria. Sorry.
Thank you. As I said before, there is no session without this comment. I see that our time is running to an end, and we still have a little video to show you in the end, but I will give you all just 1 minute if you still have something you want to say, and then everyone is invited to continue talking on the wonder. So I give you all a minute. Pamela, do you want to start?
Yeah, wow, that's difficult. Actually, I'm not prepared for that. I'm a club owner since almost 25 years now, and the funny thing is that I've learned a lot through the pandemic, what I actually knew before, so to say. So it was the proof that there's nothing the other way around, the live thing, bringing together musicians, the community, and us in a room recreated, especially for those people. This is the most important thing for us, and this is something very special, and this is what gives so much energy back to all these kind of people, that it's a good thing. So for everybody, and this is the energy why we are doing it. So I actually knew that before, but still having the venue, so still having the room we created, and still having artists, because we do a lot of digital formats, still having the artists, still being in there, but missing the crowd that was the proof that if one thing is missing, it doesn't work anymore. And this is the good thing is that so many other people also realized, and it's on the one hand side, it's really bad because we miss it since 14 months now. But on the other side, it's somehow a good sign to see that it was the right thing what we did the last almost 25 years now. And I'm usually a very optimistic person. I'm very happy that we, especially in Germany, have a good funding for our venues. We do not have a very good funding for the artists, what is really a problem, and we do not have a very good funding for all the technicians and all these people. But I'm super happy that we haven't lost any venue so far, because our government understood that it's important keeping the venues, because we have a lot of pressure on the venues even before the pandemic came, because of rising rents and things like that. So I think we will somehow make it. I hope that we can start soon again, but I think we will somehow make it. And this is, I think this is a good thing and a good sign for the future.
Thank you. David, do you have something to say?
Actually, at last, shortly summarizing, actually the biggest problem, the biggest loss is the loss of capacities. I mean, we lost a lot of people, left the industry completely, and not only musicians, but also all the surroundings, contractors, and all the small and specialized jobs helping to create an event. It's just really, it's shocking sometimes if you see the numbers, how many people left the industry. It will be very hard to build these capacities up again, from the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra to the music schools. On the other hand, this couple of months, this year, we've been forced to take new ways and discover new ways and new tools. We've been shocked, and we should take it as an advantage. We should go farther and farther, because there's no other way. So we should use these new tools, and we should keep using them, because it's not instead of the live events, not instead of everything we liked it so much, but but that is the only way to go forward. This is a new age, new generations, new tools. If we do not use them, we just go to the history books, and we do not want to go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Willem.
Yeah, thank you. I think we learned a lot of things in this time, and we realize how important music is for human beings, and that's the most important thing I think we learned. And the combination of live, digital, and streaming, that's also something we learned in this period. But I want to say a few words what Annette said a few minutes ago. We are sitting in front of a screen day after day after day, and that's not how we are as human beings. And when you are a child and you came to the music lessons, you don't meet your piano or violin friend, or that's so important for children. And it's also important for children because children talk to the music teacher something more than to other people, because music is in your heart, and then you tell something different to a music teacher. It's important before that you start a lesson that you talk about the rabbit, because the rabbit was sick, and then you talk with children about a rabbit, and after that you can make music. And when you are in a difficult situation, you don't talk about rabbits, and that's not good for a human being and for a child, I think.
Thank you very much, Annette.
So, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Willem. I can directly continue what you just said. I think what I missed the most, and I think I'm not alone, is this atmosphere feedback resonance thing in the air, which gives you some idea of how is it going. And I realize, and I think for children it must be much harder, even for me, when I have to unmute myself and mute myself and to speak up and say something. I think about it 10 times maybe. Do I really want to do it? Maybe I wouldn't. So a lot of things I think won't come up because I think, oh, I rather just shut up. I rather don't say it. And I think this really added up so teachers don't even know what about feelings. Parents don't know what's going on who are far away from their children. And I think this is something we really need to work on in order to get through to everybody, also to the disadvantaged children and young people who we might have lost contact totally with. And the other thing I experience is like kind of a wake up thing. It feels a little bit like we were a little bit sleeping, and there was always something about digital media, but nobody, no, not nobody, but I think it was not as urgent for us. We were always doing something else. So maybe I learn it tomorrow. Maybe I learn it next week. And myself, I'm like that. So and suddenly we had to jump into the cold water and say, oh, okay, now we have to just deal with it. And I think this was also a good thing, because I would have maybe never learned it, and I would have never been able to learn it. So I think this was a good push for the music education worldwide, and I think we also needed that. So this is the two things for me that came out. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Batista. I give you the floor.
Yes, I think that sustainability in all the aspects could be one of the key words for the future, and solidarity also, because I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, and I never stopped to say that the idea of Europe sometimes at the beginning was called into questions. Now I think that we are hopefully on the right track, on the right road. And then because we all trust in Europe, we all trust on the collaboration between different producer, presenter, artistic project. I mean, I would like to see more European or international bands work together and also mix the audience. I mean, Yes, I think that we have to take the opportunity. I mean, crisis create opportunities, and then we are, I think that we are all smart people working in the cultural sector, and then we must take this opportunity for the next generations of all the listener, audience, and artists. Yes, in general.
Thank you all for really nice closing words, and thank you for sharing what we have learned during this pandemic and what have been eye-openers and what we will bring with us into the future. To end the session, we have a video too from Live DMA. It's from Germany, but by Sector Evolution, The Rave of Machines. It's a dystopian video on the pandemic world where only machines and robots can enjoy nightlife. And it reminds us that access to culture is a fundamental human right. And then I really hope that we get to meet in person for the next forum. And yes, enjoy this video and then see you on Wonder and see you in real life as soon as possible. Thank you. Thanks to everyone attending, and see you in the Wonder.